I am Rebecca Morrison. Back to the people who actually know me, 42 years old. To the world, I am one of 36 federal agents trusted to stand between a bullet and the Vice President of the United States. But to my own family, I am a mall cop who couldn't even afford to rent a tux for my sister's wedding. The breaking point came at 6:47 on a Saturday evening at the Jefferson Hotel in Richmond, Virginia. My sister Jessica's wedding reception. Black tie, $400 per plate. The creme de la creme of Virginia society packed into a ballroom that smelled of money and white roses. I was standing by the service entrance, because that's where my mother told me to park my work truck, wearing a rented tuxedo from Men's Warehouse that still had the previous renter's cologne on it. Cheap aftershave mixed with desperation. The bow tie was clip-on. The jacket sleeves were a half-inch too short. The pants pulled slightly at my ankles because I told the attendant my height was 5'9" when I'm actually 5'7", thinking it would make me look taller, more dignified. Instead, I looked like a child playing dress-up in her father's clothes. What they didn't know, underneath that cheap rental, I had a Glock 19 in a concealed holster pressed against my ribs, because 3 hours earlier, I had been standing 8 feet from the Vice President of the United States, scanning a crowd of 5,000 for threats. My work truck wasn't a security company van with a magnetic sign slapped on the side. It was a government-issued armored Suburban with run-flat tires and bulletproof glass, currently parked 2 blocks away because my sister said it looked too aggressive for the neighborhood. They thought I was the help. They had no idea I was the person who helps run the most powerful country on earth. Let me tell you where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever been the black sheep of your family, the one they pity at Thanksgiving and avoid at weddings, because what I'm about to tell you will make you understand. Sometimes the people who know you least are the ones who raised you. The lie started 12 years ago. I was 30, fresh out of the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia. 6 months of hell that weeded out 80% of applicants. Tactical driving courses where you learn to ram through blockades at 60 miles per hour. Firearms training where missing the center mass by 2 inches meant starting over. Hand-to-hand combat with instructors who'd survived 3 tours in Afghanistan. I graduated second in my class of 47, the only woman in the top 10. I drove home to Alexandria, Virginia, with my badge still in its leather case on the passenger seat. I kept touching it at red lights, making sure it was real. The eagle embossed in gold, United States Secret Service. The weight of it felt like validation, like every scraped knee from the police academy obstacle courses, and every dismissive comment from male trainees had been worth it. My family was waiting at the house for Sunday dinner. My father, Richard Morrison, was in his sanctuary, the living room, sunk deep into his leather recliner with a beer sweating on the coaster. The television was on, always on. The Dallas Cowboys were down by 3, and he was leaning forward like his proximity to the screen could change the outcome. I walked in with the badge case in my hand, practically vibrating with pride. Dad, Mom, Jess, I did it. I'm a federal agent. My father glanced up, then back at the screen. The quarterback was scrambling. Federal agent? That sounds fancy. What agency? Like FBI? Secret Service? I set the badge case on the coffee table between us, flipping it open like I'd seen agents do in movies. United States Secret Service, Protective Division. My sister Jessica was 28 then, perched on the arm of Dad's chair with a wine glass in her hand. Always wine. Always white. Always expensive enough that she'd mention the vineyard. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes that somehow always managed to sound condescending. Secret Service? Isn't that the guys in sunglasses who follow the president around looking tough? Yes, I nodded, maybe too eagerly. That's exactly what it is. I'll be on protective details. My mother Carol appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her face was creased with worry lines that seemed to deepen as she looked at me. Protective? Rebecca, that sounds dangerous. Won't you be in harm's way? Mom, I'm trained for this. I just spent 6 months at... Jessica cut in, swirling her wine. Wait, so you're basically a bodyguard? I hesitated. The word felt reductive, like calling a surgeon a knife holder. Well, yes, but it's federal law enforcement. I carry a weapon, I assess threats, A bodyguard! Jessica laughed louder. Beck, that's basically a security guard with a fancy title. My father finally muted the television. The sudden silence felt heavy. So what's the pay like? Federal jobs have good benefits, right? He was already calculating, already assessing value in the only terms he understood. Starting salary is $55,000, but with overtime and hazard pay, it can go up to $55,000. He repeated the number like it was a prison sentence. That's like a security guard salary. Jessica set down her wine glass with enough force to make it ring against the side table. Beck, honey, that's really not a lot for DC. I make $72,000 and I just started as an event planner. She reached out and patted my shoulder, her touch somehow managing to convey both sympathy and superiority. You could have gone back to school, gotten your MBA like I did. My mother sat on the sofa, twisting the dish towel in her hands. Well, at least it's stable. Government jobs are secure. You'll have a pension. My father leaned back, his attention already drifting back to the game, even though the sound was still off. What exactly will you be doing day to day? Standing outside buildings? I'll be on protective details. That means traveling with protectees, securing venues, running advance work. Jessica's eyebrows lifted. Advance work? Scoping out locations before the protectee arrives, checking for threats, coordinating with local law enforcement. My mother's eyes brightened with misguided understanding. Oh, like those security guards at the mall who check the stores before they open. No, Mom, it's not. Jessica stood, smoothing her designer slacks. Mom's right, though. You're basically making sure buildings are safe. That's security work. She picked up her wine glass and headed toward the kitchen. I'm happy for you, Beck. Really, it's honest work. The conversation moved on. My father unmuted the game, the Cowboys scored, everyone cheered. My badge sat on the coffee table, ignored, until I quietly slipped it back into my purse. I could have corrected them right then. I could have said, no, I protect the President and Vice President of the United States. I'm trained in tactical driving, marksmanship, counter-assault techniques. I brief with the CIA and FBI on threat assessments. I've been granted a top-secret security clearance that required a year-long background check and interviews with everyone I've ever known. But I looked at their faces, the confusion, the inability to comprehend, and something worse than confusion in my father's eyes, disappointment. He'd wanted a daughter who was a lawyer, or a doctor, or at least someone with an MBA like Jessica was pursuing at Georgetown. He didn't want a daughter who was, in his mind, a bodyguard. So I stayed silent. And that silence hardened into a lie. The following week, I was unpacking boxes in my new apartment. A studio in Arlington, 450 square feet, $1,650 a month. When I heard my mother on the phone with Aunt Patricia, I was in the bathroom, and their voices carried through the thin walls. Yes, Rebecca got a government job. She does freelance security work. Works from different federal buildings, flexible hours. Not a real career path, but she seems happy with it. I stood in the doorway, toothbrush in hand, about to call out a correction. But my mother saw me, and her eyes went hard. A look I'd seen before. The look that said, don't embarrass me, don't make me explain you. So I went back to brushing my teeth. Jessica solidified the narrative with the precision of a corporate strategist. Within a month, the story had evolved. At family gatherings, when people asked what I did, Jessica would jump in before I could answer. Beck works security for the government. Night shifts mostly. Federal buildings in D.C. The pay's not great, but she likes the independence. By Thanksgiving, it had morphed further. My cousin asked if I was still with the government, and Jessica answered for me while cutting into her turkey. She's a security officer. Checks doors, monitors cameras, very steady work. I watched the lie spread like a stain. By Christmas, extended family members were giving me gift cards to gas stations and fast food chains, tucked into cards with messages about budgeting and making ends meet on a modest salary. My Uncle Mike, a tax attorney, cornered me at the dessert table and offered to look over my finances for free, assuming I was struggling. I wasn't struggling. My starting salary of $55,000 had already jumped to $72,000 with night differentials and overtime. I was banking money, living minimally, saving for something I couldn't yet name. But the narrative had been set. I was the struggling daughter, the one who'd chosen a blue-collar path, the cautionary tale. I understood why they needed it to be true. My father, Richard Morrison, had grown up in a trailer park in West Virginia, the son of a coal miner who died at 53 with black lung. He'd clawed his way to Virginia Tech, graduated with an engineering degree, and built a comfortable middle-class life. But comfortable wasn't enough. He needed his daughters to soar, to prove that the Morrison family had arrived. Jessica, with her Georgetown MBA and her trajectory toward corporate success, was his proof. I was supposed to be the second pillar. Instead, I was the family embarrassment, explained away at dinner parties with phrases like different paths, and she's happy with simple work. My mother had her own reasons. She'd grown up middle class, but had always felt inferior to her sisters, who'd married doctors and lawyers. She needed her daughters to be impressive, to be the kind of women who got mentioned in holiday letters with pride. A corporate event planner was impressive. A security guard was not. And Jessica. Jessica had grown up in my shadow. I'd been taller, stronger, better at sports. I'd made detective at the Arlington Police Department by 25, while she was still finding herself in college. But then she found her arena: business, networking, the art of corporate climbing. She discovered she was brilliant at it, and for that brilliance to shine, she needed contrast. She needed me to be less. If I was successful, truly successful, then her success became ordinary. But if I was the struggling sister, the one who'd peaked early and plateaued, then her trajectory looked even more impressive by comparison. So they all chose the lie. And I let them, because correcting them felt like fighting a tide. Because every time I tried to explain my actual work, their eyes would glaze over, or they'd interrupt, or they'd reframe what I'd said into something more palatable. It was exhausting. I learned to live in two worlds. In one world, I was Beck Morrison, the night shift security guard who couldn't afford nice things. In the other, I was Special Agent Rebecca Morrison, the woman who stood in rooms with the most powerful people in the world and made sure they lived to see tomorrow. The alarm went off at 4:30 on a Monday morning, not because my night shift was ending, because it was beginning. I woke in my Arlington studio, the one my mother thought I could barely afford. The rent was steep, yes, but I'd chosen this place for reasons I couldn't explain to her. It was 12 minutes from the White House. It had a security system that would satisfy a paranoid field agent. The building manager had a background clean enough to pass federal scrutiny. I dressed in the dark: black suit, white shirt, black tie. Government issued. Tailored to conceal a firearm without printing. The fabric was higher quality than anything in my civilian wardrobe. I holstered my Glock 19, checked the magazine, chambered a round. The weight of it against my ribs was familiar, comforting. At 5:15, I drove my unmarked Ford Explorer, government vehicle equipped with lights and sirens hidden behind the grille, toward downtown D.C. Traffic was non-existent at this hour, just garbage trucks and delivery vans and the occasional cab ferrying exhausted nightworkers home. I arrived at the White House complex at 5:30. Flashed my credentials at the gate. The uniformed Secret Service officer recognized me and waved me through without comment. I parked in the secure lot and walked to the EEOB, the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, where the Vice President maintained his ceremonial office. The morning briefing room was already full. 12 agents, all in dark suits, all carrying the same tired alertness that comes from years of irregular hours and high-stakes work. Special Agent in Charge Wilson stood at the head of the table, a digital display behind him showing the day's schedule. All right, listen up. VPOTUS has 3 events today. The Vice President of the United States. We never used his name in briefings, just the designation, just the role. 0800 hours, breakfast with Senate leadership at the Capitol. Morrison, you're on the advance team. I nodded. Advance team meant I'd arrive 2 hours early. I'd walk every hallway the vice president would walk. I'd check every door, every window, every sightline. I'd coordinate with Capitol Police. I'd review the backgrounds of every staffer who'd be in the room. I'd personally inspect the kitchen and watch the food being prepared. Someone had to make sure nothing was poisoned, that someone was off in me. 1200 hours, speech at Georgetown University. Morrison, you'll be in the protective bubble. The bubble, the invisible 8-foot radius around the protectee. The space where agents stand with their hands near their weapons, eyes constantly moving, ready to throw themselves between the principal and any threat. I'd stood in that bubble hundreds of times. I'd learned to look relaxed while my nervous system was on fire, scanning faces for the micro-expressions that preceded violence. At 8 in the morning, I was standing outside the Senate dining room in the Capitol building. My earpiece crackled with constant chatter. Pathfinder is moving, stagecoach in position, all clear on the east entrance. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Personal phone, not the secure one. I glanced at the screen. Mom. I stepped into an alcove, keeping the dining room door in my peripheral vision. Answered, Mom. Beck, honey, did I wake you? I was standing 15 feet from the vice president, who was laughing at something the Senate Majority Leader had just said. No, Mom, I'm up. Oh, good. I know you work nights, so I wasn't sure. Listen, I need a favor. A senator emerged from the dining room. I reflexively shifted position, blocking the sightline from the hallway to where the vice president sat. My body moved on instinct, placing myself between potential threat and principle. Beck, are you there? Yeah, Mom, I'm here. Jessica needs someone to pick up the wedding cake samples from the baker in Bethesda. She's swamped at work. Since you have flexible hours, since you work nights, can you do it this afternoon? Flexible hours. I looked at my watch. After this breakfast, I had a Georgetown speech at noon, then a 3 o'clock meeting with Israeli security regarding an upcoming state visit, then protective detail for the vice president's dinner with donors at 6. I'd be lucky to be done by 10. Mom, I'm actually working today. Working? At 8 in the morning? I thought you worked nights, dear. I couldn't explain that working nights in the Secret Service meant working whenever the protectee needed protection, which was always. Which was why I averaged 70 hours a week, and why my last day off had been 3 weeks ago. I'll see what I can do, Mom. Thank you, sweetheart. You're such a good sister. It's not like you have important meetings or anything. She laughed, genuinely amused by the idea that I might have something important to do. I hung up and returned to my post. Through the dining room windows, I could see the vice president gesturing as he spoke, probably discussing legislation. I was close enough to hear every word if I wanted to. Instead, I was listening to radio traffic, watching hands, counting exit routes. My phone buzzed again, text from Jessica. Can you lend me $500? My AC broke and the repair guy wants cash. I'll pay you back after my bonus check clears. I was sitting in the follow car of the motorcade now, third vehicle back from the vice president's armored limousine. We were heading to Georgetown University for the noon speech. I pulled up my bank account on my phone. $87,432 in savings. Last year's total income, $143,000. Base salary plus overtime plus hazard pay. This year would be higher. Presidential campaign season meant extra shifts, extra danger, extra pay. I sent the $500 via Venmo without comment. Jessica's response came immediately. Thanks. I know $500 is probably a lot for you, LOL, but I'm desperate. $500 was 3.5 hours of overtime pay for me. I'd earned that much yesterday afternoon just standing post outside a conference room, but Jessica thought I made $15 an hour like a mall security guard. She thought $500 was a significant chunk of my monthly income. I didn't correct her. What would I say? Actually, I make more than you do. That would sound like bragging. That would start questions I couldn't answer without revealing the 12-year lie. So I just sent a thumbs up emoji and put my phone away. At the Georgetown speech, I stood stage left, 8 feet from the podium. 5,000 people in the outdoor pavilion, graduation ceremony, families everywhere, cameras flashing, balloons bobbing. My eyes moved constantly. Man in row 12, red hat, checking his phone repeatedly. Threat or just bored? Woman in row 8, large purse, nervous movements. Camera shy or concealing a weapon. The vice president spoke about the future, about these graduates being tomorrow's leaders. I thought about the fact that none of them would ever know my name. If I did my job perfectly, I was invisible. If I failed, I'd be famous for all the wrong reasons. At 2:17, there was movement in my peripheral vision. A man rushing toward the stage from the crowd. My body reacted before my brain processed. I stepped in front of the vice president, hand moving to my weapon. Stop, Secret Service. The man froze, hands up. I just wanted to give him this. He was holding a letter, presumably some kind of petition or plea. Other agents swarmed. They escorted him out. The vice president didn't even pause his speech. He was a professional. He'd been through this before. But I saw his eyes flick to me for a microsecond. A tiny nod. Thank you. The speech ended at 2:50. We escorted the vice president back to the motorcade. Textbook extraction. No incidents beyond the one rushed approach, which had been handled. Special Agent in Charge Wilson clapped me on the shoulder as we walked to our vehicles. Good intercept, Morrison. You've got good instincts. 7 days before my sister's wedding, I received an email from Jessica. The subject line was, Wedding Party Attire. Important. I opened it during a break between protective details, standing in a bathroom at the State Department. The email was long, detailed, control disguised as organization. The bridesmaids' dresses had arrived. Amsal gowns in champagne silk, $450 each. The groomsmen were getting fitted for tuxedos from Brooks Brothers this Wednesday. Family dress code was black tie. Ladies in floor-length gowns, gentlemen in tuxedos. Then at the bottom, almost as an afterthought, Beck, I know you don't own formal wear, so I've arranged for you to rent a tux from Men's Warehouse. I'm covering the cost as my gift to you. Just pick it up Friday. I chose a simple black one that won't stand out. I was in the dressing room at the White House at that moment, preparing for a state dinner. Hanging on the hook behind me was my tuxedo. Tom Ford, $3,200. I'd bought it last year after running protective detail for the president at the G7 summit in France. I'd stood 6 feet from 7 world leaders in that tuxedo. It was tailored to conceal my holster perfectly, the jacket cut to allow quick access to my weapon while maintaining elegant lines. But Jessica thought I couldn't afford an $89 rental. I typed back, "Thanks, Jess. I actually have a tux." Her response came in under 2 minutes. "Beck, this is a very upscale wedding. Ryan's family is very traditional. I really think the rental I picked is more appropriate for your situation. Please just trust me on this." My situation. Code for "you're poor and I don't want you embarrassing me." I stared at my phone. I could push back. I could tell her I owned a Tom Ford tuxedo that cost more than her wedding shoes. But that would raise questions. Where did you get the money for that? Are you in debt? Did you steal it? Because in their minds, there was no scenario where I legitimately owned expensive clothes. Security guards didn't own Tom Ford. I typed, "Okay, I'll pick up the rental." Her response, "Thank you for understanding. I just want everything to be perfect." Perfect meant I needed to look poor. Perfect meant I needed to confirm their narrative. On Tuesday, the bridal party group chat exploded with messages. Jessica's friend Megan, "Girls, spa day this Thursday at Salamander Resort. Jess's treat, massages, facials, champagne, can't wait." The Salamander Resort was 2 hours from DC in Middleburg. It was where senators and CEOs went to relax. Rooms started at $600 a night. Jessica's message, "So excited, my girls deserve to be pampered." Then, "Beck, you're not in the bridal party, obviously, LOL, but you're welcome to join if you can get off work. It's $400 per person if you want to come. No pressure, though. No pressure." $400 was half of what she thought I made in a week. In reality, $400 was what I'd earned in the 6 hours I'd worked yesterday. But Thursday, I had advance work for the vice president's trip to Virginia Tech. I was coordinating with campus security and local police for an event with 3,000 students. I couldn't bail on a federal assignment to get a massage. I responded, "Can't make it, work conflict, have fun." Jessica, "Of course, night shifts are so inflexible. This is why I could never do your job." Megan, who clearly didn't know me, "Wait, what does Beck do?" Jessica, "She's a security guard, works nights at office buildings in DC. Very dedicated, but not much flexibility." Another bridesmaid, Tiffany. "Oh, wow, that's so hardworking. My cousin does that too. He says the pay isn't great, but the hours work for his lifestyle." I closed the group chat, didn't respond. What would I say? Actually, I make 6 figures, and I'm currently planning the security protocol for a vice presidential visit to a major university. They wouldn't believe me. Or worse, they would, and then I'd have to explain why I'd lied for 12 years. On Wednesday, my mother called. I was in my apartment reviewing threat assessments for the Virginia Tech event. Intelligence had flagged potential protest activity. Nothing violent, probably, but we had to prepare for everything. "Beck, honey, about the rehearsal dinner Friday night." "Yeah, Mom? It's at the Tides Inn in Irvington. Very fancy. I know the drive is far for you, 2 hours from DC, and you probably work Friday night." I checked my schedule. Friday, I was miraculously off duty. A rarity. "I can make it, Mom." "Oh, wonderful." She sounded nervous. "Now the Caldwells, Ryan's family, they're very established. Old Virginia money, you know." I waited. I could hear the anxiety in her breathing. Ryan's father, Douglas, was lieutenant governor. His mother, Catherine, sits on the board of the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. She paused. "What I'm trying to say is, they're going to ask about your career, and I think it's best if you just keep it simple." "Simple how?" "Just say you work in security. Don't elaborate. These people are very accomplished, and we don't want—" She trailed off. "Don't want what, Mom?" Silence. Then, "We don't want them to pity Jessica for having a sister who's a Well, a what? More silence. Mom, say it. A blue-collar worker, Beck. Her voice was almost a whisper. There's no shame in it, but it's different from their world. And this weekend is about Jessica and Ryan, not about making everyone uncomfortable. I hung up without saying goodbye, sat on my couch staring at the wall. On that wall, hidden behind a bookshelf, were my commendations. Letter from the director of the Secret Service thanking me for exceptional service during a crisis in London. Photograph of me at the inauguration, standing post while the Chief Justice administered the oath of office. Certificate for Agent of the Year 2022 signed by the sitting president, all hidden. Because God forbid my family see them and have to reconcile reality with their comfortable fiction. On Thursday afternoon, Jessica texted, "Hey, just finalized the seating chart. You're at table 8. I pulled up the floor plan she'd sent weeks earlier. Table 1, bride, groom, parents. Tables 2 to 3, bridal party. Tables 4 to 6, Caldwell extended family and close friends. Table 7, Morrison extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins. Table 8, miscellaneous guests and plus ones. I was seated with Ryan's second cousin twice removed, a random college friend of Ryan's I'd never met, the wedding florist, the photographer, and one empty seat. I texted back, I'm at the miscellaneous table? Jessica. Beck, don't be sensitive. I had to make tough choices. The Caldwells have a lot of important family. I'm your only sister. And you'll still be there. Look, table 8 is still in the ballroom. It's not like I put you in the hallway, LOL. Besides, you don't really know anyone in the bridal party. And you won't have much to talk about with Ryan's political friends. I thought you'd be more comfortable with the miscellaneous guests. Miscellaneous, like I was an afterthought. A spare part. Someone who didn't quite fit anywhere but couldn't be excluded entirely. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say that wouldn't start a fight. And I was too tired to fight. On Friday afternoon, I drove to Men's Warehouse to pick up the rental tuxedo. The employee pulled it from the back, checked my name on the order. Your sister prepaid. You're all set. I took the garment bag to my car, opened the trunk. Inside was my Tom Ford tuxedo in its protective covering, the one I'd worn to state dinners and diplomatic receptions, the one that cost more than Jessica's monthly rent. I could wear it. I could walk into that rehearsal dinner looking like the professional I was. But then Jessica would ask questions. Where did you get that? How can you afford that? And Mom would stress. And Dad would wonder if I'd gone into debt. And honestly, I was tired. Tired of defending myself. Tired of proving myself. Tired of fighting to be seen. So I took the rental tuxedo inside, left the Tom Ford in the trunk. 'Cause sometimes being small is easier than fighting to be tall. That night, I laid both tuxedos on my bed, side by side. The $3,200 Tom Ford, sharp, elegant, powerful, tailored to fit a woman who commanded rooms without speaking. The $89 rental, cheap, wrinkled, smelling of other people's sweat and stress, with a clip-on bow tie and sleeves that would be too long. I knew which one I'd wear tomorrow. The knowledge made me want to cry. But I didn't cry. I'd learned a long time ago that crying changed nothing. Instead, I packed both tuxedos in my car, just in case. Just in case I found the courage to be myself instead of the version my family needed me to be. The Tides Inn sat on the Rappahannock River like a postcard of Virginia gentility. White columns, manicured lawns, valet parking with attendants in white gloves. I pulled up in my Honda Civic, my personal car, a 2018 model I'd bought used and paid off in 2 years, and watched the line of luxury vehicles ahead of me. Mercedes, BMW, Tesla, Lexus. Each one probably cost more than I made in a year, or at least more than my family thought I made. The valet looked at my car the way someone might look at a stray dog that had wandered onto a golf course. Dropping someone off, ma'am? No, I'm a guest. Morrison family. He checked his tablet, skepticism clear in the pause before he found my name. Oh, yes, go ahead. He took my keys like they might contaminate him. Inside, the private dining room was already full. 40 people. Rehearsal dinner for immediate family and bridal party only. Jessica was radiant in a white rehearsal dress that I knew from her Instagram post had cost $600. Ryan stood beside her in a suit that fit like it had been made for him. Because it had been made for him. The Caldwell family looked like they'd stepped out of a Ralph Lauren advertisement. Douglas Caldwell, former lieutenant governor, had silver hair and a tan that came from golf courses, not construction sites. His wife Catherine wore a silk dress and a single strand of pearls that were large enough to choke on. Every person in that room wore the quiet confidence of people who'd never had to check their bank account before making a purchase. My family stood in a cluster near the bar looking nervous. My father was in his good suit, the one from Macy's that he'd bought 15 years ago for my police academy graduation. My mother wore a dress she'd bought specifically for this weekend, on sale at Nordstrom Rack, and I could see her tugging at the hem like she didn't trust it to stay in place. And I was in business casual, black slacks, a simple blouse, trying to blend into the wallpaper until dinner started. Jessica spotted me and waved me over with a gesture that was more summons than greeting. "Beck, come meet Ryan's parents." Douglas and Catherine Caldwell turned as I approached. Catherine's eyes moved over me with the precision of an appraiser evaluating jewelry. She started at my hair, simple ponytail, professional for work but unstyled to her standards, moved down to my blouse, Ann Taylor, $89, off the rack, my shoes, comfortable flats because I spent 12 hours a day on my feet, my hands, short nails, no polish, a callus on my right thumb from the Glock's grip. The entire assessment took 3 seconds. Her smile was polite and cold at the same time. "Jessica has told us so much about you," the tone said, and none of it was impressive. I extended my hand. "Mrs. Caldwell, Mr. Caldwell, it's wonderful to meet you." Catherine's handshake was limp, like she was afraid she might catch something. Douglas, trying to be jovial, clasped my shoulder. "Rebecca, wonderful to meet you. And what do you do?" The room didn't exactly go quiet, but I felt the shift in attention. This was a room full of lawyers, politicians, business owners, people who define themselves by their professional success. "I work in security." Douglas's eyes lit up with interest. "Security? Excellent. What sector? Corporate? Tech?" Before I could answer, Jessica jumped in with the laugh she used when she was nervous. "Oh no, nothing like that. Beck works for the government, federal security." Douglas leaned forward. "Federal security? Wonderful. Which agency?" "I have friends at FBI, NSA." Jessica cut him off, still laughing. "Oh no, nothing like that. Beck is a security officer. She guards federal buildings, night shifts mostly." The silence that followed was the sound of interest dying. Catherine's expression shifted from polite curiosity to polite pity. "Oh, how civic-minded. How—" Douglas recovered with forced enthusiasm. "Well, someone has to keep those buildings safe. Important work." The words were kind. The tone was the one you'd use with a child who'd just shown you a crayon drawing. We sat for dinner. I was placed between Ryan's uncle, a DC lobbyist who spent the meal talking about access and influence, and Ryan's college roommate who worked at Goldman Sachs and wore a watch that cost more than my car. The Goldman Sachs guy tried to make conversation. "So, security work, is that union? It's federal employment." Right. GS scale, I assume. What are you, GS5, GS6? I was GS13, senior management level, 115,000 base salary. But security guards were typically GS5, 35,000. He'd done the math and placed me accordingly. Something like that. I cut my chicken into very small pieces. He nodded with what he probably thought was sympathy. "Tough to live in DC on that salary. Do you have roommates?" "No." "Wow." His eyebrows rose. "That's rough. Renting a room by yourself must take your whole paycheck." I took a sip of water, said nothing. Silence is not absence. Silence is choice. From across the table, I could hear my father talking to Douglas Caldwell. Richard Morrison's voice carried when he was nervous. "Yes, Beck's always been our independent one. Didn't want to go to college. Well, she went to community college for a bit but didn't finish. I had a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from George Mason University. I'd graduated summa cum laude, but my father either didn't remember or didn't think it was worth mentioning. She wanted to go straight into working, very hands-on, not academic like Jessica." Douglas was nodding, his face arranged in understanding. "Different paths for different people. Nothing wrong with blue-collar work, backbone of America." "Bone of—" My father looked relieved. "Exactly. We're proud of both our girls. Jessica with her business degree, her career, and Beck, well, Beck's happy doing what she does." The tone was unmistakable. "We're disappointed, but we've accepted it." After dinner came toasts. Douglas Caldwell stood and tapped his champagne glass with his wedding ring. The crystal chimes silenced the room. Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, I want to take a moment to talk about our families coming together. He spoke beautifully about Ryan, about Ryan's accomplishments, about the Caldwell family legacy. Then he turned to Jessica. And Jessica, what a remarkable young woman. Georgetown MBA, junior partner at one of DC's most prestigious event planning firms at just 38 years old. Everything we could hope for in a daughter-in-law. Applause, Jessica beamed. Then Douglas's eyes scanned the room and landed on me. I also want to acknowledge the Morrison family. Richard and Carol, you've raised two very different daughters. The pause that followed felt like a held breath. Jessica, who chose the path of education and ambition. More applause. And Rebecca, who chose a different path. Every eye in the room turned to me. I kept my face neutral. Years of training, never show fear, never show pain. Rebecca works in security. And while it's not a path I would have chosen, it's honest work. He raised his glass. We need people like Rebecca, people who are comfortable with simple jobs. So let's raise a glass to the Morrison family. Both daughters, each finding their place in the world. Polite applause. My father looked ashamed. Of me. My mother was staring at her plate. Jessica was smiling, relieved that the attention had moved past the awkward acknowledgement of her lesser sister. I raised my glass with everyone else, drank the champagne. It was excellent champagne. Probably $200 a bottle. I knew because I'd had the same brand at a state dinner 3 months ago. After the toasts, Catherine Caldwell approached me near the dessert table. Rebecca, may I speak candidly? Of course, Mrs. Caldwell. I admire your work ethic. I truly do. She touched my arm, her fingers light as bird bones. But have you considered advancing yourself? Advancing? Education, training. There are wonderful programs for adult learners, community colleges with evening classes. She squeezed my arm gently. You're still young. 42 is not too old to get a degree, to move into management. I just think, for Jessica's sake, it would be nice if you had more in common with her friends. More to talk about at gatherings like this. She smiled. We want the best for you, dear. Translation. You embarrass your sister. Fix yourself. I excused myself to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, pressed my forehead against the cool metal door, breathed. My secure phone buzzed in my purse. Different pattern than my personal phone. 3 short bursts. Pause. 2 long. I pulled it out. Code red. Special agent in charge. Wilson's face filled the screen. Morrison, we have a situation. How fast can you get back to DC? I'm in Irvington. 2 hours. Make it 90 minutes. VPOTUS is attending an event tomorrow in Richmond. We just received credible intel of a threat. My heart rate spiked. What kind of threat? Can't discuss on this line. I'm sending you encrypted files now. You're on the advance team. We need you at the Richmond site by midnight for security sweep. I checked my watch. It was 9:45. Sir, my sister's wedding is tomorrow in Richmond. What time? Ceremony at 3 p.m. You'll be done by then. Sweep tonight. VP's event is 10 a.m. tomorrow. You're clear by noon. Make it work, Morrison. Yes, sir. I hung up. Stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Tomorrow, I would protect the vice president in the morning and attend my sister's wedding in the afternoon. The universe had a sick sense of humor. I walked back into the dining room. They were about to cut the rehearsal cake. I grabbed my purse from my chair. Jessica saw me, and her face went from happy to furious in the space of a heartbeat. Beck, what are you doing? I have to go. Work emergency. My father stood up. Work emergency? Beck, you're a security guard. What emergency? Someone forgot to lock a door? I can't explain. I have to go. I'll be at the wedding tomorrow, I promise. Jessica's voice rose, drawing attention. Are you serious? You're leaving my rehearsal dinner for work? Jess, I'm sorry, but this is what? She was standing now, her white dress rustling. Someone set off an alarm? Someone needs you to check a door? The entire table was watching. 40 pairs of eyes. All of them seeing exactly what my family had told them to see. The struggling security guard who couldn't manage her priorities. I'm sorry, I'll explain later. Jessica's eyes were filling with tears, but they were angry tears. You're always doing this. Always putting your job first. Your stupid, meaningless job. Jess, just go. Her voice cracked. Go be a hero security guard. Go save the office building. Catherine Caldwell leaned toward her husband, loud enough for half the room to hear. No sense of priorities. I walked out. Behind me, I heard my mother apologizing. I'm so sorry, she's always been difficult about work-life balance. I got to my car, sat behind the wheel. My hands were shaking, not from fear of the threat I was about to face. I'd faced threats before. My hands were shaking because my family had just watched me choose work over them, and they thought I'd chosen a stupid, meaningless job over my sister's happiness. They didn't know I was about to spend the night securing a venue for the Vice President of the United States. They didn't know that work emergency meant potential assassination threat. They thought I'd left a rehearsal dinner to go check on an empty office building. And I couldn't tell them the truth. Not now, maybe not ever. I called Wilson back as I merged onto Route 3, heading north toward Richmond. "Sir, I'm en route." "Good, here's what we know." His voice was crisp, professional. Intercepted chatter mentions Richmond, Saturday afternoon, VIP target. NSA flagged it as credible. VPOTUS is speaking at Virginia Commonwealth University graduation. 5,000 attendees. Outdoor venue. I processed information while driving. Outdoor venue meant 1,000 sightlines to check. 5,000 attendees meant 5,000 potential threats. You'll lead the advance team. Sweep the venue, coordinate with local PD, check every inch. Threat assessment is high, Morrison. I need you sharp on this one. I thought about Jessica's face, her tears, her anger, the way my mother had apologized for me like I was a misbehaving child. "I'm always sharp, sir." "I know you are. That's why you're leading this." Wilson paused. "Morrison, I know the timing is rough, but this is the job." "I understand, sir." I hung up and drove through the darkness, heading toward a threat I couldn't name, to protect a life I couldn't mention, while my family believed I'd abandoned them for nothing. And the worst part was the small voice in my head that whispered, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I should have stayed. Maybe this job has cost me everything that matters." But then I thought about tomorrow. 5,000 people attending a graduation. Families watching their children walk across a stage. Students celebrating the achievement of a lifetime. Dreams being realized. Futures beginning. And if I did my job right, they'd never know how close they came to tragedy. They'd never know my name. They'd never know I'd spent the night walking in shadows to keep them safe in the light, just like my family. I arrived at Virginia Commonwealth University at 12:30 in the morning. The campus was dark, silent except for the distant hum of traffic on Broad Street. The outdoor pavilion sat empty under security lights that cast everything in harsh white. My team was already there. 6 agents in dark tactical gear, 3 K9 units, and a mobile command center that looked like an unmarked delivery truck. Special Agent Johnson met me at the perimeter fence. "Morrison, glad you made it." "Wilson briefed you?" Intercepted chatter. "Threat assessment high." VP speaks at 1000 hours. Johnson nodded toward the pavilion. "We've swept the immediate area. Clean so far. But we need eyes on every rooftop, every window, every access point within 1,000 yards." I looked up at the buildings surrounding the pavilion. Student union, library, dormitories. Each one a potential sniper nest. Each window a sightline to where the vice president would stand. Let's start with the rooftops. We climbed 8 flights of stairs to the top of the student union building. My legs burned, but I didn't slow down. At the top, I pulled out night vision goggles and scanned the pavilion below. From this angle, the podium was perfectly visible. Clear shot. I radioed down. "Johnson, we need counter-sniper teams on this roof and the library roof. Overlapping fields of fire." "Copy that." At 2 in the morning, we were checking the catering setup. A white tent behind the pavilion, industrial refrigerators humming. The catering company had been pre-approved weeks ago, but protocols required physical verification. I checked the staff manifest against the actual workers. 12 names, 12 people. I ran each one through the database on my tablet while they stood in a line, looking annoyed at being woken up for a background check. One of them, a line cook named Martinez, had a misdemeanor assault charge from 8 years ago. Bar fight. Served 3 months probation. I pulled him aside. "Martinez, I need you to understand something. This is a Secret Service operation. We cannot have anyone with any criminal history within the security perimeter." "But that was 8 years ago. I've been clean since then. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them. You'll need to leave the site. Your employer will be notified." He argued. I didn't budge. 10 minutes later, he was escorted off campus by local police. The catering manager was furious, scrambling to find a replacement cook at 2 in the morning. I didn't care. My job wasn't to make their lives easier. At 3:30, the K-9 unit alerted on a suspicious package behind the main stage. Everyone evacuated. Bomb squad rolled in with their robot. I stood behind the blast shield with Johnson, watching the robot's camera feed on a tablet. The package was a backpack. Black. Bulging. Johnson keyed his radio. "All units, we have a potential IED. Maintain perimeter." 20 minutes of tension. My phone buzzed. Personal phone. I ignored it. Buzzed again. I glanced at the screen. Text from my mother. "Beck, I hope you're getting some sleep before the big day tomorrow. Remember, ceremony starts at 3 p.m. sharp. Don't be late like you usually are. Love you." I was standing behind a blast shield at a potential bomb site. My mother thought I was sleeping. The bomb squad tech's voice crackled through the radio. "Package is clear. Repeat, clear. Contents are textbooks and energy drinks." False alarm. A student's forgotten backpack. But my hands were still shaking at 6:45 when I finally allowed myself a cup of coffee from the mobile command center. At 800 hours, Special Agent in Charge Wilson arrived for the final briefing. "Morrison, status report. Venue is secure, sir. Rooftop counter sniper positions established. All catering staff vetted. K-9 sweep complete, local PD coordinated. We're ready for VPOTUS arrival." Wilson looked at me closely. "When's the last time you slept?" "Thursday night." It was now Saturday morning. "Morrison, after this event, you're taking 48 hours off. That's an order." "Yes, sir." I didn't tell him I had a wedding to attend in 7 hours. Didn't tell him I'd been awake for 36 hours straight and would probably be awake for another 12. At 9:45, the motorcade arrived. 12 vehicles in perfect formation. I took my position stage left, 8 feet from the podium. The vice president stepped out of the armored limousine, straightening his tie. He saw me and nodded. "Agent Morrison, good to see you." "Mr. Vice President." The graduation began at 1000 hours exactly. 5,000 people in folding chairs. Families with cameras. Balloons tied to chair backs. The vice president's speech was about opportunity, about the future, about these young people being the architects of tomorrow. I scanned faces, row by row, looking for the micro-expressions that preceded violence, looking for hands reaching into bags, looking for anyone not watching the stage. At 10:17, movement in my peripheral vision. A man breaking from the crowd running toward the stage. My body moved before conscious thought. I stepped in front of the vice president, hand inside my jacket, fingers on the grip of my Glock. "Stop, Secret Service." The man froze, arms raised. His face was young, early 20s, terrified. I just wanted to give him my resume. "I'm graduating today, and I thought maybe he could help me get a job." He was holding a manila folder. Other agents swarmed him, escorted him away. The vice president continued his speech without missing a beat. But his eyes flicked to me, the briefest acknowledgement. "Thank you." The speech ended at 10:50. We moved the vice president to his vehicle with textbook precision. No incidents beyond the one over-eager graduate. Wilson clapped me on the shoulder as we walked back to our cars. "Excellent work, Morrison. That intercept was perfect instinct." "Thank you, sir. You're clear. Go enjoy your day off." I checked my watch. 1100 hours. Wedding ceremony started at 1500. I had 4 hours to shower, change, and drive across Richmond to the Jefferson Hotel. I could make it work. I was walking to my car when my secure phone rang. "Wilson." I answered. "Yes, sir?" "Morrison, hold position." My stomach dropped. "Sir?" "We just got updated intel. The threat wasn't for this event." "What?" The chatter mentioned Richmond Saturday afternoon VIP target. We assumed it was VPOTUS because of his public event. But NSA just cross-referenced the intercept with other signals intelligence. The target might be Douglas Caldwell. I stopped walking. "Who?" "Douglas Caldwell, former Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, currently sits on the Senate Intelligence Committee. He's been vocal about foreign policy, particularly regarding trade restrictions that have upset certain foreign actors." My blood went cold. "Sir, that's my sister's wedding today." Silence on the line. Then, "Your sister is marrying into the Caldwell family?" "Yes, sir. The wedding is at the Jefferson Hotel, 3 p.m. "Jesus Christ, Morrison, why didn't you mention this earlier?" "I didn't think it was relevant, sir. The wedding is private family. Douglas Caldwell retired from public office years ago." Why would he be a target now? He was appointed to the Senate Intelligence Committee last month. Confirmation was quiet, but foreign intelligence services track these things. And he's been making noise about export controls that would hurt certain countries economically. My mind raced. What's the threat level? Medium high, could be surveillance, could be worse. We've contacted Caldwell directly. He's refusing to cancel the wedding. Says his family has been planning this for a year, and he won't let terrorists dictate his schedule. Can you force him to cancel? No. He's not under federal protection unless he requests it. And he's not requesting it. So what do we do? Wilson paused. Morrison, you're already invited to this wedding, your family. You can be inside without raising suspicion. We need someone on site who can be eyes and ears without causing panic. You're asking me to work my sister's wedding. I'm asking you to keep 200 people safe, including your sister. Sir, if I tell my family I'm working, they'll think I'm insane. They think I'm a night security guard, remember? Then don't tell them. Go to the wedding as a guest, but keep Caldwell in sight. We'll send backup. 2 agents in plainclothes posing as guests. But you're the only one who knows the family, knows the venue, knows who should be there. How credible is this threat? Credible enough that I'm pulling agents off weekend leave to cover it. Morrison, I wouldn't ask if I had another option. I thought about Jessica, about her white dress, her perfect day. If I told her I was working her wedding, she'd never forgive me. If something happened and I did nothing, I'd never forgive myself. I'll do it. Good. Backup will meet you at the Jefferson at 14:30. Keep your phone on. If the threat materializes, FBI SWAT is on standby. But let's hope it's just surveillance and everyone has a nice wedding. He hung up. I stood in the parking lot of VCU in my rumpled suit that I'd been wearing for 24 hours, staring at my reflection in my car window. I looked exhausted. I looked exactly like someone who'd been awake for 37 hours straight. I looked like someone who should not be working a high society wedding. But I drove to my hotel room anyway, showered in 4 minutes, stared at the 2 tuxedos hanging in the closet, the rental from Men's Warehouse, the Tom Ford. If I was working, I needed to carry my weapon. The Tom Ford was tailored to conceal a holster. The rental was not. I put on the Tom Ford. Jessica would ask questions. I'd deal with it later. I holstered my Glock, checked the magazine, chambered around, clipped my credentials to my belt, hidden under the jacket, put in my earpiece, nearly invisible flesh-colored piece that looked like a hearing aid, put my secure phone in my inner pocket, looked in the mirror. I looked like a wedding guest. I was a federal agent on duty. The Jefferson Hotel rose from downtown Richmond like a monument to old Virginia money. Brick facade, marble columns, a doorman in a tailcoat who opened car doors with white-gloved hands. I pulled up at 2:30, giving myself time to scout before the ceremony. The valet was the same one from the rehearsal dinner. He looked at my Honda Civic with barely concealed disdain. Then he saw my tuxedo. His expression shifted to confusion. Ma'am? Morrison family. He took my keys, uncertain what to make of me. Inside, the lobby was controlled chaos. Wedding guests arriving in clusters, flowers everywhere, white roses and hydrangeas that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. A string quartet in the corner playing something classical that I didn't recognize. My earpiece crackled. Foxtrot 1, this is Foxtrot 2, we're in position. I tapped the earpiece twice. Acknowledgement. My backup agents were here, somewhere in this crowd, dressed like guests. Foxtrot 2 continued. Caldwell package has arrived. Visual on primary. I scanned the lobby, found Douglas Caldwell near the elevators, talking to relatives. He looked relaxed, unaware of the threat, unaware that 3 federal agents were currently watching his back. I positioned myself near a column, good sightlines to the entrance in the ballroom, watched faces, watched hands, watched for anything out of place. Beck? I turned. Jessica was standing there in her wedding dress, $8,000 of ivory silk. She looked stunning. She looked at my tuxedo and her expression shifted. Where did you get that tux? I've had it. That's not the rental I picked out. I decided to wear my own. Her eyes narrowed. Your own? Beck, that looks expensive. Can we talk about this later? Today's your day. You should be getting ready. I was getting ready. Then Mom told me you actually showed up, and I had to see for myself. After last night's stunt, I wasn't sure you'd have the nerve. Jess, I'm here. I promised I'd be here. She searched my face, looking for something. An apology, maybe. An explanation. Fine. But we're talking later. about the tux, about where you're getting money you don't have. She walked away, her dress trailing behind her. I watched her go, then went back to scanning the lobby. In my ear, Foxtrot 1. We have a vehicle circling the block. Virginia plates doesn't match the guest list. Advise. I tapped twice. Acknowledged. Then, run the plates. Could be late arrival, could be surveillance. 30 seconds later, plates come back to a rideshare service. Driver is picking up a passenger. False alarm. I breathed. At 2:45, guests began moving toward the ballroom for the ceremony. I followed the flow, keeping Douglas Caldwell in sight. He was with his wife Catherine, greeting friends, oblivious to the 3 armed federal agents in the room. The ballroom was set up like a cathedral. 200 white chairs in rows, an aisle down the center lined with rose petals, an altar at the front, draped in white silk and more flowers, floor-to-ceiling windows letting in afternoon light. I was supposed to sit at table 8, the miscellaneous guests table. But table 8 was for the reception. For the ceremony, I found my assigned seat in row 8, behind family, behind friends, behind the important people. But I didn't sit. I stood at the back, near the exit. Better sight lines, better access to all 4 doors, better position to move if needed. A cousin I vaguely recognized approached. Beck, you're supposed to be sitting. The ceremony's about to start. I'm fine here. You'll miss the view. I'm fine. She shrugged and walked away. I stayed at my post, scanning the room. Exits clear, windows closed, guests settling in. No unusual behavior, no one out of place. In my ear, all units ceremony beginning, maintain observation. The string quartet shifted to Pachelbel's canon. Everyone stood. Jessica appeared at the entrance on my father's arm. She was radiant, glowing with happiness. My father looked proud, chest puffed out as he walked his daughter down the aisle. I wanted to watch, wanted to be present for this moment, but my eyes kept scanning, faces, hands, movement, because if something happened, I had seconds to react. The ceremony was beautiful, traditional. The officiant spoke about love and commitment. Jessica and Ryan exchanged vows. Their voices carried across the silent room, promises made in front of 200 witnesses. Do you, Jessica Ann Morrison, take Ryan Douglas Caldwell to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Do you, Ryan Douglas Caldwell, take Jessica Ann Morrison to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. I was the only person in the room who wasn't fully present. The only person listening to radio chatter in my ear, instead of the ceremony in front of me. The only person watching the doors instead of the bride. In my ear, movement at the kitchen entrance, staff member not on the approved list. My hand moved inside my jacket, ready to draw. Hold, I need visual confirmation. Confirmed, last-minute replacement pastry chef. Background check running now. 15 seconds of tension. Then, check clear. Previous chef called in sick. This is the authorized replacement. I relaxed, slightly. By the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Virginia, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Applause erupted. Jessica and Ryan kissed. Everyone cheered. I clapped along with them, still watching the exits. The newlyweds walked back down the aisle, beaming. My parents followed, then the wedding party. Guests filed out toward the cocktail reception. I stayed back, last to leave, making sure the room was clear. The cocktail hour was in an adjacent ballroom. Open bar, past hors d'oeuvres, soft jazz from a live trio. I grabbed a glass of water and positioned myself where I could see both Douglas Caldwell and the main entrance. Catherine Caldwell found me within minutes. Rebecca, you came back. After last night, we weren't certain. I wouldn't miss it, Mrs. Caldwell. She looked at my tuxedo with open curiosity. That's a lovely tuxedo. Much nicer than what you wore last night. Thank you. May I ask where you purchased it? Moment of truth. Tom Ford. Her eyebrows rose. Tom Ford. That's quite an investment for someone in your line of work. Before I could respond, Douglas joined us. Catherine, leave her alone. The girl can spend her money however she wants. To me. Though I am curious, Rebecca, Tom Ford runs about $3,000. That's a significant purchase on a government salary. He thought I made $35,000 a year. He was calculating, wondering if I'd gone into debt for a tuxedo, wondering if I was financially irresponsible. I save. The words came out flat. A cluster of Ryan's colleagues approached, all political staffers, all wearing their ambition like cologne. One of them, an aide to a senator, looked me up and down. So Beck just mentioned you work federal security. Which buildings do you cover? Various locations. I kept my answers short, my eyes on Douglas Caldwell behind them. Must get boring night shifts. What do you do to stay awake? I stay alert. Another staffer laughed. I bet. All those empty hallways. Ever see any ghosts? They were mocking me. I let them. Because mocking me meant they weren't paying attention to the fact that I was positioning myself between them and potential threat vectors. Douglas, trying to be gracious. I'm sure Rebecca's work has its challenges. The staffer grinned. Oh, absolutely. Making sure all the doors are locked. Critical national security. More laughter. In my ear. Foxtrot 1, we have a guest acting suspiciously. Male, 40s, alone, keeps checking his phone. I excused myself. Walked toward the bar. Spotted the man. Dark suit, nervous energy, phone in hand. I positioned myself nearby, ordered another water. In my ear, running facial recognition now. The man was texting rapidly, sweating. Could be a threat. Could be a nervous guest. Facial rec complete. Michael Torres, groom side, clean background. Recent divorce. He's texting his ex-wife. Just a heartbroken wedding guest. I returned to monitoring Douglas Caldwell. Dinner service began at 5. I was seated at table 8 as assigned. The miscellaneous table. An elderly aunt who talked about her cats. The wedding photographer who talked about lighting techniques. The florist who explained the symbolism of each flower arrangement. Ryan's college roommate who wouldn't stop talking about cryptocurrency. I made polite conversation while monitoring Douglas at table 1. My food arrived, filet mignon. I ate mechanically, tasting nothing. In my ear, catering staff change. 2 servers swapped out sick. Running background checks now. I set down my fork, ready to move if needed. Checks came back clean 60 seconds later. I resumed eating. At 5:30, Douglas Caldwell stood for his toast. The room quieted. He spoke about family, about tradition, about welcoming Jessica into the Caldwell legacy. Jessica is accomplished, educated, driven, everything we could hope for in a daughter-in-law. Then he looked at our table. And I want to acknowledge the Morrison family. Richard and Carol, you've raised 2 very different daughters. Jessica, who chose education and ambition, and Rebecca, who chose a different path. Every eye turned toward me. I kept my face neutral. Years of training. Rebecca works in security. And while it's not the path I would have chosen, it's honest work. We need people like Rebecca. People who are comfortable with simple jobs. I was protecting his life right now. He had no idea. People applauded politely. My father looked ashamed. My mother stared at her plate. Jessica smiled, relieved. I raised my glass with everyone else, drank champagne that probably cost $200 a bottle, the same brand I'd had at a state dinner last month. At 6, I excused myself. Walked to a quiet corridor, called Wilson on my secure line. Sir, update? Morrison, where are you? At the wedding, working the detail like you asked. Good, we've been monitoring. No activity yet, but stay alert. Sir, my family thinks I'm just a guest. If something happens and I have to act, I blow 12 years of cover. If something happens, cover doesn't matter. Save lives first, explain later. Understood. At 6:15, guests were gathering around the cake. 5 tiers of white fondant and sugar flowers. Jessica and Ryan posed for photos, knife in hand. I positioned myself between the crowd and Douglas Caldwell, using my body as a shield without anyone noticing. Jessica saw me standing apart, walked over, wine glass in hand, flushed from champagne and attention. Why are you being weird? What? You're standing like you're on guard duty or something. Just watching the celebration. You've been distracted all day. Is this about last night? Are you sulking because I called you out? No, Jess, I'm just... In my ear, Foxtrot 1, we have a situation. My body went rigid. Jessica noticed. Beck? What's wrong? Excuse me. I walked quickly toward the service corridor, away from the crowd. What's happening? Agent voice. Urgent. We have a credible threat. Man just checked into the hotel 30 minutes ago. Matches description from NSA Intercept. Syrian national, known associate of extremist group. Where? Room 412, directly above the ballroom. My mind calculated. Above us. Potential surveillance. Potential worse. FBI is en route. ETA 8 minutes. Your orders. Maintain visual on Caldwell. Do not engage unless necessary. I looked back at the ballroom. 200 people. Laughing, dancing, celebrating. Jessica in her white dress. My parents. All of them oblivious to the threat directly above their heads. Do we evacuate? Negative. Not until we confirm the threat is active. Evacuation could trigger premature action if he's watching. I keyed my radio. Foxtrot 2, Foxtrot 3, converge on my position. We're securing the package. Two men in suits materialized from the crowd. They'd been posing as guests. Now they moved like the operators they were. We need to move Caldwell quietly, no panic. I walked back into the ballroom, straight to Douglas at the head table. Mr. Caldwell, I need to speak with you. Privately. Now. He looked confused. Rebecca, is something— Please, sir, come with me. Quietly. Catherine stood. Rebecca, what on earth is going on? Mrs. Caldwell, trust me. I need him to come with me right now. Douglas saw something in my face. He stood. I'll be right back, dear. I led him to the service hallway. My backup agents flanked us, hands inside their jackets. Douglas looked at them, then at me. Rebecca, what is this? I pulled out my credentials, showed him the badge, the photo, the seal of the United States Secret Service. Sir, I'm Special Agent Rebecca Morrison, United States Secret Service. We've received credible intelligence of a threat against you. I need you to stay here with these agents until FBI clears the building. His eyes went wide. Your Secret Service? Yes, sir. But Jessica said you're a security guard. Sir, we don't have time. He registered the command in my voice. The authority. This is an active situation. Stay here. Do not return to the ballroom until I give the all clear. Jessica appeared in the hallway. Beck, what are you doing? Why did you pull my father-in-law away from— She stopped, saw my credentials in my hand, saw two agents in tactical positions, saw Douglas looking shocked. Beck, what the hell is this? I turned to her. Jess, I'm a federal agent. There's a potential threat. I need you to go back to the ballroom and act normal. Federal agent? Her voice rose. Beck, you're a security guard. What are you talking about? I work for the Secret Service. I've been protecting Mr. Caldwell all day. There's a credible threat. I need you to go back to the reception. Now. This is insane. You're having some kind of breakdown? Jess, I don't have time to explain. My voice shifted. Pure command authority. Go back to the ballroom. Now. She stepped back, frightened. You're scaring me. FBI SWAT entered through the service entrance. Tactical gear, rifles. So, the full package. Secret Service? Here, Agent Morrison. Subject is in room 412. We're going in, stand by. 4 minutes of radio silence. I stood with Douglas, Jessica, and my backup agents. Jessica stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Then, room clear. Subject was not present. We found surveillance equipment pointed at the ballroom. He was monitoring the event, but he's gone. We're reviewing security footage now. I keyed my radio. Building secure? Affirmative. Subject appears to have fled when he saw federal vehicles arrive. We're setting up a perimeter, but he's in the wind. I turned to Douglas. Sir, the immediate threat has passed, but I recommend you return to the reception and act as if nothing happened. We don't want to cause panic. He was still processing. You're really Secret Service? Yes, sir. And you've been working my daughter's wedding? Yes, sir. He looked at me with new eyes. I don't know what to say. Say nothing, please. Just go back to the party. We'll maintain security for the rest of the evening. Douglas returned to the ballroom, leaving me alone with Jessica. She stared. Her makeup was smudged from tears. I hadn't noticed her crying. Explain. Right now, I'm a special agent with the United States Secret Service. I protect the vice president and other high-value targets. I've been doing this for 12 years. You're lying. I'm not. Beck, you're a security guard. You work night shifts at office buildings. That's what you wanted to believe. I pulled out my phone, showed her my official credentials, my badge photo, my clearance level. She looked at the screen, looked at me. This can't be real. It's real, Jess. The night shifts you thought I worked, I was protecting the vice president. The work truck you made me park blocks away, government-issued armored vehicle. The flexible schedule you pitied, being on call 24/7 for national security. Her face cycled through emotions. Shock, disbelief, anger. Why didn't you tell us? I tried. 12 years ago. You called me a bodyguard. Dad said it was a simple government job. Mom wanted me to call it research because security sounded too aggressive. So you all decided I was a security guard and I stopped fighting you? You just let us think you were a failure? You needed me to be a failure, Jess. You needed me to be the unsuccessful sister so you could be the star. That's not fair, isn't it? Every time I tried to talk about my work, you changed the subject. Every time someone asked what I did, you jumped in to translate for me. You built your entire identity around being better than me. The only way that worked was if I was beneath you. Jessica's face crumpled. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. Because knowing would have required you to change how you saw yourself. And that was too hard. Music from the ballroom drifted into the hallway. The first dance. You're missing your first dance. Jessica looked at the doors, looked back at me. Come with me. Come back to the reception. I can't. I'm still on duty. On duty at my wedding. Yes. She wiped her eyes, mascara running. I don't even know who you are. I'm the same person I've always been, Jess. You just never look close enough to see me. She turned and walked back to the ballroom, left me standing in the service corridor, alone. I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. 40 hours without sleep. A wedding I'd worked instead of attending. A sister who finally knew the truth and looked at me like a stranger. My phone buzzed. Wilson. Morrison, good work tonight. Threat neutralized, no casualties, minimal exposure. You did exactly what needed to be done. Thank you, sir. Take the rest of the weekend. You've earned it. I hung up, stood in that hallway listening to my sister's wedding through a closed door. I had just saved 200 lives from a potential terrorist attack. But I couldn't save my relationship with my own family. Because sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. Sometimes it just shows you how much you've lost while trying to protect what you love. I walked back into the reception, not as a guest, as an agent, maintaining my post, watching Douglas Caldwell for the rest of the evening, making sure my sister's wedding stayed safe. At 9, the reception was still going strong, dancing, laughter, champagne flowing. I stood near the wall, maintaining surveillance. My parents spotted me and approached together, a unified front. My father's face was pale. Beck, Catherine Caldwell just told us that you're Secret Service. I am. My mother's voice was small, confused. But you work as a security guard. No, Mom, I'm a federal agent. I protect the vice president. I've been doing this for 12 years. They stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. My father opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. The Tom Ford tuxedo, the way you left last night, the phone calls at odd hours. All real, Dad. All part of my actual job. But why didn't you tell us? I tried. You didn't want to hear it. You wanted a simple story. Security guard was simple. Federal agent protecting world leaders was complicated. My mother started crying. I sent you coupons. I thought you were struggling. I make $143,000 a year, Mom. I'm not struggling. I never was. The number hit them like a physical blow. My father's face went red. Then why live in that tiny apartment? Why drive that old car? Because I chose to. Because I don't need more than that. Because I like being close to work and I don't define myself by my possessions. Douglas Caldwell appeared, his presence drawing my parents' attention. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, your daughter is remarkable. She may have saved my life tonight. My mother looked at him, then at me, then back at him. I don't understand. Douglas smiled at me, a real smile, respectful. Rebecca, Agent Morrison, is one of the finest federal agents I've ever encountered. You should be very proud. My father's voice was barely a whisper. We didn't know. We thought. You thought what you wanted to think. I looked at my parents. You thought what was easiest for you, what made you comfortable, what fit your narrative. Jessica appeared, Ryan at her side. The music had ended. Guests were starting to leave. She looked at me, then at our parents. Have you told them everything? There's nothing to tell that they don't already know. I did my job. I kept everyone safe, that's all. But it wasn't all. We all knew it wasn't all. 12 years of lies. 12 years of being small so they could feel big. 12 years of silence because the truth was too complicated. I need to go. I look at Jessica. Congratulations on your wedding. I'm sorry I couldn't be the sister you needed me to be today. Beck, wait. But I was already walking away. Through the ballroom, past the flowers and the cake and the celebration I'd protected but never really attended. Out to the lobby, out to the valet stand. My Honda Civic appeared. The valet looked at me differently now. He'd heard the commotion, heard the FBI, heard the word Secret Service. He held my door open with something approaching respect. Have a good evening, ma'am. I drove away from the Jefferson Hotel, away from my sister's wedding, away from my family's shocked faces and their belated understanding. The city lights of Richmond blurred past. I was so tired I could barely see straight. 42 hours awake, but I couldn't sleep yet. I drove to a quiet overlook near the James River, parked, sat in silence. My phone buzzed. Text from Jessica. We need to talk, please. Another from my mother. Beck, honey, I don't understand any of this. Please call me. Another from my father. I'm sorry. I should have listened. I should have believed you. I turned off my phone, sat in the darkness. Thought about the last 48 hours, the rehearsal dinner where I'd been pitied, the all-night security sweep, the vice president's event, the wedding I'd worked instead of attending, the truth finally exposed. For 12 years, I'd protected the most powerful people in America, but I couldn't protect myself from my own family's assumptions. I'd let them define me because fighting them felt harder than hiding. But maybe hiding was the greater harm. Maybe silence wasn't strength. Maybe it was just surrender dressed up as patience. I thought about tomorrow, about the conversations I'd have to have, about boundaries I'd need to set, about the family relationships that would never be the same. But tonight, I just sat in my car by the river and let myself be tired. Let myself feel the weight of 42 hours without sleep. Let myself acknowledge that I'd done my job perfectly and still felt like I'd lost everything. The city glittered below, lights in windows, lives being lived. People who would never know that today, I'd kept them safe. That tonight, I'd prevented something terrible from happening at a wedding. They'd never know my name. They'd never thank me. That's how it worked. Invisible until it mattered, silent until there was no choice. I closed my eyes, just for a moment, just to rest. Tomorrow, I'd deal with the aftermath. Tomorrow, I'd face my family and set new terms. Tomorrow, I'd rebuild whatever could be rebuilt. But tonight, I was just Beck Morrison, alone, exhausted, and finally seen. I woke up in my Arlington apartment at 3 in the afternoon on Sunday. Sunlight streamed through the blinds at an angle that told me I'd slept through most of the day. My body felt like it had been run over by the vice president's motorcade. 42 hours awake, followed by a 12-hour crash. My phone showed 63 missed calls, 17 voicemails, 42 text messages. I didn't look at any of them. Instead, I showered, made coffee, and sat on my couch staring at the wall where my commendations had been hidden for 12 years. I stood up, moved the bookshelf, pulled out the framed letter from the director, the photo from the inauguration, the Agent of the Year certificate, carried them to the main wall of my studio, hung them up where anyone walking through my door would see them immediately. No more hiding. My phone rang. Wilson, I answered. Morrison, just checking in. How are you holding up? I'm fine, sir. You worked 42 hours straight, prevented a potential terrorist incident, and exposed your cover to your entire family in one weekend. You're not fine. Take the week. That's an order. Yes, sir. And Morrison, what you did was exceptional. The vice president asked about you specifically this morning. Wanted to make sure you were okay. I appreciate that, sir. He hung up. I sat with that information. The vice president of the United States had asked about me, had made sure I was okay. My own mother had sent me coupons to Subway. The contrast would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much. Monday morning, I received a certified letter. Return address, Morrison Family Counseling Associates. Inside was a handwritten note from my mother. Beck, your father and I have scheduled family therapy. First session is Wednesday at 4 p.m. We hope you'll come. We need to understand what happened. We need to understand you. Please. Love, Mom. I held the note for a long time. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to cut them off, to prove I didn't need their validation or their understanding. But another part of me, the part that still remembered being a little girl showing her father her report card, desperate for his approval, wanted to try one more time. I called the number, made an appointment. Wednesday at 4, I walked into a therapist's office in Alexandria. Neutral beige walls, comfortable chairs arranged in a circle, a box of tissues on the coffee table that looked like it got a lot of use. My parents were already there. My father looked 10 years older than he had on Saturday. My mother's eyes were red and puffy. Jessica sat between them, picking at her cuticles. The therapist, Dr. Sarah Chen, was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an expression that suggested she'd heard everything. She gestured to the empty chair. Rebecca, thank you for coming. I sat. We all looked at each other. 12 years of lies sitting between us like a fifth person in the room. Dr. Chen opened her notebook. I've spoken with each of you individually. Now I'd like us to talk together. Rebecca, your family has expressed confusion and hurt about the revelation this weekend. Can you help them understand why you kept your career a secret for so long? I didn't keep it a secret. I looked at each of them. I told you what I did. 12 years ago. You chose not to believe me. My father shifted in his chair. Beck, you said you were a bodyguard. You thought what was easy to think. What fit your narrative? I interrupted, my voice steady. I told you I was a federal agent. I showed you my badge. I explained that I'd be protecting world leaders. You dismissed it as a simple security job because that was easier than accepting that I might be doing something impressive. Jessica's voice was small. We didn't mean to diminish you. Didn't you? I looked at her directly. Jess, you built your entire identity around being more successful than me. If I was actually successful, that narrative collapsed. So you rewrote my story every chance you got. At family gatherings, in group chats, at your rehearsal dinner, you needed me to be the failure. The tears started running down Jessica's face. I didn't realize. I swear, I didn't realize I was doing it. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Jessica, can you tell Rebecca what you've discovered about yourself in our individual sessions? Jessica took a shaky breath. I've always been jealous of you. Growing up, you were better at everything. Smarter, stronger, braver. When I finally found something I was good at, business, networking, I needed it to be mine alone. I needed to be the successful one. So I... She stopped, wiping her eyes. So I made you small. Every time you tried to tell us what you really did, I talked over you. I translated. I diminished. Because if you were actually saving lives and protecting the vice president, then what was I? Just a glorified party planner. The honesty hit like a physical blow. I sat back in my chair. My mother spoke up, her voice trembling. I sent you coupons for Subway, for Jiffy Lube. I thought I was helping. I thought you were struggling. You were, Mom. Helping yourself feel superior. Helping yourself feel successful as a mother because at least one daughter needed you. That's not fair, isn't it? I pulled out my phone, scrolled to my bank account. I make $143,000 a year. Last year I saved $60,000. I own my car outright. I have no debt. I've never missed a rent payment. I don't need coupons. I never did. But you needed to give them to me because it confirmed your belief that I was struggling. My father's voice broke. Why didn't you correct us? I tried, Dad. At Thanksgiving 12 years ago. At Christmas, at Easter. Every family gathering, every time someone asked what I did, I tried to explain. And every time, one of you would jump in and translate my life into something more palatable. Eventually, I stopped fighting, because fighting you was exhausting. Dr. Chen nodded. Rebecca, what do you need from your family going forward? I thought about it, the question I'd been avoiding for 12 years. I need you to see me, the real me, not the version that makes you comfortable. I looked at each of them. I need you to stop apologizing for me, stop pitying me, stop translating my life into something easier to explain at dinner parties. What else? I need boundaries. If you diminish my work again, I leave. If you make assumptions about my finances, I correct you once and then I leave. If you treat me like a failure, I walk away. For good. The room went quiet. My mother was crying openly now. We don't want to lose you. Then don't lose me. But understand, I'm not negotiable anymore. I won't make myself small so you can feel big. Jessica reached across the space between our chairs. Her hand trembled. I'm so sorry, Beck. I'm so sorry. I didn't take her hand immediately, let the moment hang there. Then slowly I reached out, squeezed once. Let go. I want to forgive you. But forgiveness is a process, not a light switch. You hurt me for 12 years. That doesn't heal in a week. Dr. Chen made a note. That's a healthy boundary. She looked at my parents. Richard, Carol, what can you do to support Rebecca's healing? My father cleared his throat. I've been reading about the Secret Service, about what they do, the training, the danger. He looked at me with something new in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or the beginning of it. I had no idea. I'm ashamed that I didn't ask, that I didn't want to know because it complicated my simple story about my daughters. My mother nodded. I told the ladies at church about your real job, about how you protected a senator at Jessica's wedding. Mrs. Henderson asked if you could come speak at our women's group about safety and empowerment. I almost laughed. 2 weeks ago, you were embarrassed by me. Now you want me to speak at church? I know. She twisted her hands together. I know how that sounds, but I'm trying, Beck. I'm trying to see you. The session lasted 90 minutes. We scheduled another for the following week. Then another, then another. Healing wasn't linear. It was messy. There were setbacks. There were fights. In week 2, My father told his golf buddy that I was a government employee, and the buddy asked what department. My father said Department of Defense. I corrected him. Secret Service is Department of Homeland Security. He got defensive. Same thing, isn't it? No, Dad, it's not. In week 3, my mother introduced me to a neighbor as her daughter who works in security. I stopped her. Federal agent, Mom. Not security guard. Federal agent. She blushed, corrected herself. In week 4, Jessica posted on Facebook about her sister, the hero. I called her. Jess, don't make me a spectacle. I'm not a hero. I'm a professional doing my job. But by week 6, something shifted. Small things. My father asked intelligent questions about my training. My mother stopped sending me budgeting tips. Jessica invited me to lunch and didn't mention my career once, just talked about her life, her fears, her hopes. By week 8, I felt like I could breathe around them. 3 months after the wedding, Jessica called. Can you come over? I have news. I drove to her condo in McLean. She opened the door with a nervous smile. I'm pregnant. I hugged her. Jess, that's wonderful. She pulled back, searching my face. Are you sure you're okay with this? With being an aunt? Why wouldn't I be? Because I've been such a terrible sister. Because I don't deserve your support. I sat on her couch, the same couch where I delivered cases of soda 3 months ago. Jess, you're trying. That's what matters. You're in therapy. You're changing. That's more than most people do. She sat beside me, hand on her still flat stomach. I want my kid to know you, the real you. I want them to know their aunt is a badass federal agent who protects the vice president. I smiled. Badass federal agent. I like that better than security guard. Beck, can I ask you something? Sure. Will you be the godmother? I looked at her, at the hope in her eyes, at the vulnerability. This was Jessica without armor, without competition. Just my sister, scared and pregnant, asking me to be part of her child's life. I'd be honored. She burst into tears. Happy tears this time. 4 months after the wedding, I received an invitation to a political fundraiser at the Smithsonian. Formal event, black tie. The invitation was addressed to Special Agent Rebecca Morrison and guest. The host? Senator Douglas Caldwell. I RSVP'd yes, no guest. Wore my Tom Ford tuxedo without apology. The event was packed with DC power players, senators, congresspeople, lobbyists, everyone who was anyone in Virginia politics. Douglas spotted me immediately and made his way through the crowd. Agent Morrison, I'm so glad you came. Senator Caldwell, thank you for the invitation. He gestured to a group of people nearby. I'd like you to meet some colleagues, people who should know what you did. He introduced me to 3 senators and a congresswoman. This is Special Agent Rebecca Morrison. She's part of the Vice President's protective detail, and she saved my life at my son's wedding. The senators looked at me with new interest. Protective detail? That's elite work. One of them, a senator from Texas, shook my hand firmly. My daughter wants to go into federal law enforcement. Would you be willing to talk to her sometime? About what it takes? I'd be happy to. Douglas pulled me aside later in the evening. Rebecca, I owe you an apology beyond what I said at the wedding. Sir, you don't... I do. He looked uncomfortable. At the rehearsal dinner, I patronized you. I gave that speech about knowing your place, about simple jobs. I had no idea I was talking to someone who literally takes bullets for a living. You didn't know. But I should have asked. I should have been curious instead of condescending. His jaw tightened. Catherine and I have talked about it extensively, about how we treat people we perceive as beneath us. It's been a reckoning for both of us. I appreciate that, Senator. Jessica is lucky to have you as a sister. Ryan is lucky to have you as a sister-in-law. And this country is lucky to have you as a protector. I drove home that night feeling something unfamiliar. Not validation from my family. I'd spent 12 years learning I didn't need that. But validation from someone who'd seen me at my lowest and my highest. Who'd been saved by me and chose to honor it publicly. 5 months after the wedding, I was at work. Standard Tuesday. Protective detail for a VP meeting with foreign diplomats. I was in position outside the conference room when my personal phone buzzed. Text from Jessica. In labor, baby coming early, can you come? I showed my phone to my supervisor. He waved me off. Go, we've got coverage. I drove to Inova Fairfax Hospital, still in my suit, my weapon secured in the car. Found Jessica in the delivery room. Ryan holding her hand, both of them terrified. Contractions 5 minutes apart. Beck! Jessica reached for me with her free hand. I'm scared. I took her hand. You're the strongest person I know. You can do this. 12 hours later, Emma Catherine Caldwell entered the world. 6 pounds, 7 ounces. Perfect. Jessica was exhausted, makeup gone, hair matted with sweat. She looked more beautiful than she had at her wedding. This is Emma, your goddaughter. I held the baby. Felt the weight of a brand new life. A life I'd promised to help protect and guide. Hi, Emma. I'm your Aunt Beck. I'm going to teach you that your worth isn't determined by what other people think of you. That strength comes in many forms. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to be small. Jessica laughed through tears. Please don't turn my daughter into a Secret Service agent. I don't think my heart could take it. I'll let her choose her own path, but I'll make damn sure she knows she can choose anything. 6 months after the wedding, almost to the day, I got a call from Wilson. Morrison, unusual situation. VPOTUS wants to meet with you. Today, 1700 hours. Meeting about what? What, sir? He didn't say, just requested you specifically. At 5 p.m., I was in the Vice President's West Wing office. He sat behind his desk, the American flag on one side, the Vice Presidential flag on the other. He stood when I entered. Agent Morrison, thank you for coming. Of course, Mr. Vice President. He gestured to a chair. I wanted to thank you personally for Richmond, for the VCU graduation and the Caldwell wedding. You worked 42 hours straight to keep people safe. That's above and beyond. Just doing my job, sir. He smiled. That's what all the best agents say. He opened a folder on his desk. I've been reviewing your file. 12 years of exemplary service, multiple commendations, the respect of every agent you've worked with. He pulled out a document. I'm recommending you for the Director's Award for Exceptional Service. It's the highest honor the Secret Service gives. The ceremony is in 6 weeks. You're allowed to invite family. I sat very still. Sir, I'm honored. You've earned it. He leaned back. And Morrison? I heard what happened with your family. The misunderstanding. I stiffened. Sir, my personal life? He held up a hand. I just want you to know that I see you. The work you do. The sacrifices you make. You're invisible to most people by design, but you're not invisible to me, or to the people who matter. Thank you, sir. The ceremony is November 15th. Black tie, bring your family. Let them see you honored properly. I will, sir. I left his office and called Jessica. Jess, I need you to do something for me. What? November 15th, 7 p.m. The Vice President is giving me an award. I need you there. You, Ryan, Mom, Dad, dress nice, be on time. Beck, of course, will be there. And Jess? No apologizing for me, no explaining away my job. Just be there. Be proud. Or at least pretend to be. I am proud. I'm so fucking proud I could burst. November 15th arrived cold and clear. The ceremony was at Secret Service headquarters in D.C., a building most Americans have never seen. High security, multiple checkpoints. My family had to surrender their phones and be screened before entry. The auditorium held 200 people, other agents receiving awards, their families, senior Secret Service leadership, and in the front row, a seat reserved for the Vice President. My family sat in the 3rd row, my mother in a navy dress, my father in his best suit. A new one, I noticed. Jessica and Ryan, Jessica holding baby Emma, who was miraculously quiet. 6 agents received awards before me, each for different acts of service. The room applauded each one. Then Deputy Director James Foster took the podium. Our final award tonight is for Special Agent Rebecca Morrison. He began reading my citation. Agent Morrison has served with distinction for 12 years. She has protected 3 presidents and 2 vice presidents. She has worked in 43 countries. She has received 17 commendations for bravery and tactical excellence. Most recently, Agent Morrison worked 42 consecutive hours to ensure the safety of the vice president during a credible threat situation in Richmond, Virginia. Her actions directly prevented what could have been a catastrophic loss of American lives. I stood from my seat in the front row, walked to the stage. Agent Morrison is known among her colleagues as the Iron Shield. Unwavering, unshakable. The agent you want at your back when everything goes wrong. He handed me the medal, heavy brass on a blue ribbon, the seal of the Secret Service embossed on the front. The Vice President stood from his seat in the front row, walked onto the stage, shook my hand while photographers captured the moment. Agent Morrison, on behalf of a grateful nation, thank you. The audience stood, applauded. I looked out at the crowd, found my family. My mother was crying. My father was standing straighter than I'd ever seen him. Jessica was clapping so hard I thought her hands would bruise. In that moment, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't small. I wasn't the struggling daughter or the failed sister. I was Special Agent Rebecca Morrison, and everyone in that room knew it. The reception afterward was in an adjacent room. Coffee and cake, families congratulating agents. My family found me immediately. My father hugged me, tight, longer than he'd hugged me since I was a child. I'm proud of you. I should have said it 12 years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm so goddamn proud. My mother touched the medal hanging around my neck. Is this real gold? Brass, Mom. But yeah, it's real. Jessica stood back, letting our parents have their moment. When they stepped away, she approached. Emma was asleep in her arms. Can I take a picture, you and Emma? Sure. She handed Emma to me. I held my goddaughter, still in my formal Secret Service uniform, the medal around my neck catching the light. Jessica took the photo. This is going on Emma's wall, so when she's old enough to ask, I can tell her that her godmother is the woman who protects the most powerful people in the world. The vice president appeared, flanked by 2 agents. Morrison, introduce me to your family. Sir, this is my father Richard, my mother Carol, my sister Jessica, her husband Ryan, and my goddaughter Emma. The vice president shook each of their hands. Your daughter is exceptional. You should know that. She's saved my life more times than I can count. My father found his voice. We're learning, sir. We're learning just how exceptional she is. After the ceremony, after the photos, after the congratulations, I drove home alone, took off my uniform, hung the medal on the wall next to my other commendations. No longer hidden, no longer shameful. My phone buzzed. Group chat. Family group chat that had been silent for 6 months. Mom, Beck, we're so proud of you. Tonight was incredible. Dad, my daughter, the hero. I'm telling everyone at the club tomorrow. Jessica, Aunt Beck is a badass. Emma's first word is going to be tactical. I smiled, typed back, thanks everyone. It meant a lot to have you there. And it did, it truly did. 1 year after the wedding, I was at work. Normal Wednesday, protective detail for a VP speech at Georgetown. Standing post, scanning faces, doing the job I'd done for 12 years. My phone buzzed. Jessica, happy anniversary of the day you saved Doug's life and blew up our family in the process. Laughing emoji. Love you, sis. Another text. Mom, saw an article about Secret Service agents in the Post this morning. Thought of you. So proud. Another dad. Beck, one of my golf buddy's daughters wants to apply to federal law enforcement. Can I give her your number? I responded to each one, then put my phone away and went back to work. That night, I sat in my apartment, the same 450 square foot studio in Arlington, the same Honda Civic parked outside, the same life, but different, fundamentally different. My walls displayed my achievements. My family knew my truth. My goddaughter would grow up knowing that her Aunt Beck was someone who refused to be small. I thought about the last year, the therapy sessions, the hard conversations, the boundaries I'd set and enforced, the family members who'd learned to see me. I thought about Jessica, who'd gone from needing me to be a failure to needing me to be her daughter's godmother, who'd done the hard work of examining why she needed to be superior, who'd chosen growth over comfort. I thought about my parents, who'd chosen easy stories over truth for so long, who were learning slowly to ask questions instead of making assumptions. And I thought about myself, the woman who'd hidden for 12 years because fighting felt harder than disappearing, who'd learned the difference between patience and surrender, who'd discovered that love without respect was just another form of control. My phone rang. Wilson. Morrison, sorry to call late. We have a situation developing. Possible threat to VPOTUS tomorrow. Need you on the advance team. On my way, sir. I grabbed my go bag, always packed, always ready, checked my weapon, headed for the door. Paused, looked back at my apartment, at the medals on the wall, at the photo of me holding Emma, at the life I'd built that was finally, truly mine. For 12 years, I'd protected the most powerful people in America. But the most important thing I'd ever protected was my own worth, the truth that my value didn't depend on their understanding, that I could be invisible to the world and still be essential, that I could be misunderstood by my family and still be whole. I'd learned that silence isn't always strength. Sometimes it's surrender. and that the bravest thing you can do is take up space instead of shrinking to fit. I closed the door, locked it, headed into the night. Somewhere a vice president needed protection. Somewhere threats were developing. Somewhere my skills were needed. And this time I wasn't doing it in secret, wasn't hiding behind lies, wasn't pretending to be small. I was Special Agent Rebecca Morrison, the Iron Shield, and I was done being invisible. The end doesn't come in a single moment. It comes in a series of small victories, in therapy sessions that move from painful to productive, in family dinners where no one apologizes for you, in the moment your mother introduces you correctly to her friends, in the photo your sister posts with the caption, "My sister, the Secret Service agent, and I couldn't be prouder." It comes in the boundaries you set and the consequences you enforce. In walking out of a family gathering the first time someone diminishes your work, and having them call the next day to apologize. In saying, "I need respect more than I need your comfort," and watching them choose to give you both. It comes in teaching your goddaughter that worthiness isn't earned through other people's approval, that power comes from knowing who you are, regardless of who they think you should be. That sometimes loving someone means refusing to let them diminish you. I learned that protecting yourself is just as important as protecting others, that you can't save everyone, but you can save yourself. That family is people who see you, and when they don't, you're allowed to walk away until they learn how. I'm 43 now, still in Arlington, still driving the Honda, still standing post for the vice president, still invisible to most of the world by design, but not invisible to myself, never again. My worth is not determined by their perception. My success is not validated by their understanding. My truth is not subject to their comfort. I am not who they say I am. I am who I know myself to be. And that is the only validation that matters.